All right, welcome to our latest Swampcast. Kevin Brockway and Pat Dooley, the Gainesville Sun. Of course, we're going to talk a little bit about Florida's game against Kentucky and preview the upcoming game Wednesday night against South Carolina. And Kevin, it was a great atmosphere Saturday night. A lot of Kentucky fans there. They were louder. They were like loud to the level of like Florida fans for East Tennessee State. That's what it sounded like, and it was amazing how many there were. We haven't seen that in a long time there, but in the end, Florida pulls out the win.
Yeah, Kentucky makes that run in the second half when they go to the zone. But Chandler Parsons gets a couple of offensive rebounds, huge offensive rebounds off the zone. Kentucky goes back to man, and give Florida credit. I thought they executed very well down the stretch. They made 5 or 6 free throws.
Right.
Alex Tyus comes up with a big shot, a couple of big defensive plays too, forcing Terrence Jones into a bad shot and then coming out and getting his hand in Brandon Knight's face on the end. The only three-pointer that Brandon Knight misses the whole game,
right.
The one that was the most important. And Florida holds on 70-68, first time with 2 wins against ranked opponents since 2007. So really a big week for the Gators.
Yeah, as I said in my column, I thought it was the most prosperous week they've had since '07, since the last national championship. And it's funny because the game ended the same way it did in 2005 with a missed three-pointer, and at the time it was Kalini Azubuike, and bounced away. Matt Walsh grabbed it, threw it in the stands. Kenny Boynton grabbed this one, threw it up in the air, and it was a big night. It was a huge night for Florida fans who had that long win streak against Kentucky, but the last year or so it hasn't gone too well against them.
Yeah, and I think Florida really did a good job of executing, the game plan. They got Harrelson in foul trouble. He fouled out, forcing Eloy Vargas to play, and really took advantage of that on the boards. And obviously Chandler Parsons coming up with the huge putbacks. And I think Chandler has really kind of, worked into that role where, they're not asking him to score much in terms of creating, but the putbacks, the assists, he had 5 assists, he had that beautiful behind the back pass, really being that point forward spot. You're starting to see him assert himself, and his versatility is really helping the Gators in SEC play.
Well, he's playing like a senior is what he's doing, and whenever you play a zone, you're susceptible to those backside rebounds, and that bit Kentucky twice on those 2 plays, and 2 of the biggest plays of the game, no question about it. Also for Florida, I don't know what's gotten into Scotty Wilbekin, but all of a sudden he's making baskets and scoring points. The first, 20 games of the year, I didn't think he'd ever take a shot, but now he's actually become another weapon for the Gators.
Yeah, he's becoming a little more assertive offensively, and you've seen that, sometimes you forget the kid's only 17, he won't be 18 until March, so maybe he was, a little tentative early on, but I think, that's been probably the key to Florida this season, because if you take a look at their starting 5, maybe compared with some other starting 5s around the league, might not have the same talent level, but I think what Billy has done is used his bench very well, and you're seeing guys like Patrick Young, Scotty Wilbekin, Willie Gett, Casey Prather, and Eric Murphy. You've got a pretty good second 5 unit there that's starting to develop. I mean, their bench is consistently outscoring other teams in the league, and that's been fairly helpful.
Yeah, and I think too, when you add in like Mike Rosario, when they practice, they're practicing against decent players. And I think that's been part of their problem the last 3 years, is not having 10 quality players to have full practices with. But it's funny, I was on a radio show this week up in Louisville, and they asked me if Florida has this habit of letting down after big wins, and could that happen against South Carolina? And I said, well, South Carolina beat them. I mean, you can't let down against a team that's beaten you. So. And I agree with you. I think the matchup's not the greatest for Florida, but we'll see if they can go there and get it, because they should have won the game here, let's face it.
Yeah, I mean, they did miss a lot of free throws, but Muldrow caused a problem in the first half with his block shots. I mean, they had 8 block shots in the first half. Some of them were quality blocks, Billy said in the press conference, but other, you have Irvin Walker going in the lane, trying floaters, getting rejected. So I think shot selection is going to be very important inside. Yep. And I think too, you have to hit some shots from the perimeter. Florida hasn't really had really many good games from three-point range. It's early in the SEC schedule.
Right.
The Ole Miss, the Tennessee game. Since then, they've really struggled from three-point range. So maybe they're due for that game where they hit some shots, and maybe this is the game where they can come out. But, they've always had problems in Columbia for whatever reason, and even though they lost them the first time, they always have that kind of letdown factor where maybe they play the level of their competition. But, it'll be interesting. Bruce Ellington also hurt him, the first time around too. So Florida's going to have to do a good job defensively on him in the perimeter.
Yeah, I can't think it's going to be a packed house. I mean, South Carolina's coming off an 18-point loss to Vanderbilt. They're at the bottom of the standings. It is Florida, and that may bring some people out there. But I think it's just going to be the key is for Florida to play well, to play its game and it is what it is. It's going to miss free throws. Florida's going to miss free throws.
Yeah.
They're not going to shoot lights out from the perimeter. But the key, as you mentioned in that first game, is they got a lot of good looks inside and just didn't go up aggressively enough. That, to me, is what they've got to do. They've got to take it to the basket aggressively, draw fouls, get them in foul trouble, and finish. That's the biggest thing.
And also, too, the one thing about South Carolina being a good shot blocking team, they're actually a pretty good offensive rebound team, but not a very good defensive rebound team, because a lot of times their guys go out for shots. So this could set up as another game for Parsons, getting putbacks, or Vernon Macklin or Alex Tice inside. Someone is going to probably be open on that other side to get putbacks if you get penetration.
Well, we'll see how the Gators do. Of course, it's a big game for them. Every game's big at this time of year. Florida leading the SEC East and a half a game behind Alabama for the overall SEC lead. Of course, the Gators will play Tennessee on Saturday. We'll preview that and look back at the Florida-South Carolina game the next time we have a Swampcast. Kevin Brockway, Pat Dooley, until then, saying so long from the Sunshine State.